Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on a programming language called 10th. It's a fourth imitator slash subset, and we've been implementing it in assembly language. And today we're going to focus on recursion. And well, I'm hopeful that our approach will work already, but we'll fix it if it doesn't. All right, so we need to run some tests, and we'll start with a secondary calling another secondary. We started, we built the dictionary and a couple of secondaries. Let's see if we got them how we want them. So start2d starts each one. Then we do a push 0, 1, 2. No, we're going to call the secondary, and then we're going to call n2d. Okay, and the secondary pushes 5 and then calls n2d. So at the end of this, if this was properly called, we should get 5 on the stack. Okay, so let's see what we got. We got a load address x0 add 2. Well, that's not the way we start. Well, I think if it's load interpreter for that, we should call else secondary 1. Now, I'm not quite sure that doesn't give us an extra level, but we'll see. All right, at the end, the data stack should be 5. Let's make it 55, a little more distinctive. Okay, so the thing on the stack, there should be one thing on the stack at the data stack location, and it should be a 55. All right, I think that's actually pretty close to the test we want. Hey, Mudshark. Okay, so let's save this. And I guess the goal, oops, did I include it in the tests? I think I did. Yesterday, yes, okay. So theoretically, this will just run. Yeah, okay, so much for theory. All right, segmentation fault. Boy, I would love to know what's going on there. All right, I think it might be that the run interpreter is not quite how we want it. Let's check out run interpreter. So okay, so it pushes the load link register. It loads the data stack. It moves the pointer to x20 and it calls start2d. Yeah, I think that's not. I think it needs to do something before that. x20. Well. We took this out. Let's take that out. Okay, so we do this, we pass. In our case, it was our address of our secondary. That's just pushing the stack pointer. Okay. Load the method at x20. In increment by 8. That's a start2d. Then we load whatever that points to. Well, no, that's the address of whatever it points to. It's pointing to the dictionary, and then this one gets the dictionary value, and then we branch into what should be start2d. Yeah, this is why I'm worried about it. When it gets back here, well, no. Okay. No, we shared the same dictionary. Let's get that back. So they're both working on a test dictionary, which is, in real life, that's going to be a static list of functions. So everybody will share it. But yeah, so it's got the consistency, start 2D, end 2D, or 0 and 3, and then calling two different things. This is else secondary 2 points to this, which starts there. Are we leaving off? No, we got start 2D first. Yeah, they're going to run the same primitives. Well, this one's a secondary. So why was I thinking it would blow out? So he should load start 2D. The start 2D gets x20 pointing at one past that. Okay, so he comes back here, he stores that. All right, when he finishes, he calls N2D. No, I'm going to have to let's run the debugger. Do that a lot more with the assembler than we did with the Swift. This is interpreter test.out. Let's do break set start minus B start 2D. Okay. And if I do a run, okay, so we're ready to store these two registers. Load this, load that. Okay, let's step. Okay, reg read x0. 100438. Okay, let's dump interpreter tests. .4038. Okay, that's a data place. Let's step one more. Reg read x0. 4038. Is it x0 or x1? Oh. Run interpreter plus 23 D98. D 98 is start 2D. Okay. Now we're going to branch from indirectly, or call indirectly x1, which is run interpreter. Well, it's start 2D, 3D98. Okay, so continue. Well, let's look at x20 while we're here. Okay, 4040. And then mem read minus count 120. I think we'll start at 00. Okay, so 4040 is here, 4030. That's a data cell. 4040, okay. 4030, is that in this? Or is that data? Okay. And I don't know what this is. Add to. Okay, I'm going to continue. All right, so now we recursively call the interpreter. We're back to the top. X20, still at 4040. Okay, we'll step, 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 step. 3db0 and 2d. Well, that's kind of weird. No, I'm sorry, I missed the comments. No, this is not recursive. This is just procedure 1 calls procedure 2, secondary 1 calls secondary 2, secondary 2 does a push, it returns, and that should return, that should be it. So each one has an N2D at the end of its thing. But I'm surprised we're at the N2D already. X1 3db0 is N2D. So I somehow missed pushing, going to the second routine. No, it's going to crash. Okay, here's the new interpreter. Reg read X20. Now he's at 4078. Add 2. Oh. Well, no. I don't think we called add 2. Wait, what's add 2? It's like we're going past. Well, yeah, if we're at add 2, oh, there it is. That's part of a totally different test. Yeah, something's... Maybe we finished the one test and we're running the next one. It only exits the loop when it calls an N2D. So if we left an N2D off our code, then who knows where it ends up. All right. Wow. Let's look over here. I'm going to take these two off and run it again. Okay, segmentation fault. Okay. I don't know if we have to walk through the data again. Our tables. Let's make sure we can. L2 test dictionary. Okay, let's put debug data here. Okay. All right, and then well, let's just run dot interpreter test dot out. Okay. DB interpreter test dot out. We'll break it start 2D. run. Okay. Now, I want to see if there's a way to see the stack in the debugger. I don't remember writing that down. Map. Okay, something was wrong here. Nope. Okay. Nothing about the stack. I don't know if frame will do it. I thought it'd be like stack trace. Thank you. Okay. Where did we leave off? Okay, I set a breakpoint. We started on the method we thought. We're here. Okay, let's step. Oops. Stopped. Continue. Next. Next. Okay. Red greed x20. Debug data plus 18. Okay. Debug data plus, well, that's 16. Why 18? I don't think this looks like anything, does it? Usually they look like this or something. All right, let me see where debug data is. Okay, it's 10 words of test dictionary. So this should be, somehow should be the address of start2d. Well, I don't think our dictionary looks right. Ugh. That is not... Like, what even is that? And y plus 18? That seems like a very... Is this only filling bytes? Maybe that's... No, I want GNU assembler. Size repeats copies of size bytes. Okay, so I haven't done anything. 10 copies of nothing. More than 80. Okay, so we want 10 copies of 8 bytes. Because we have 4 entries, 3, 4. Okay, so, all right. So we started writing in much smaller places than we should. Okay. Different error. Okay. $240. Huh. $30 times 8 is 240 bytes. But he can't even read this. All right. I'm going to run, and we'll let the pointer tell us where things are. Okay, so when we come in, X20 ought to be interesting. It ought to be pointing. Okay, that sort of makes sense because debug data plus 0 and then 10 times 8 bytes. All right. Mem read this. Maybe it didn't get allocated? I guess. Okay. So debug data. Wait a minute. Debug data is 4100. I didn't see 4100 here. Okay. Well, there's 4100. That's secondary 2. Okay, so there's 40B0, which is probably the start. Okay, this is 3D A0. (3D)Z0 start 2D. Okay, so this is our dictionary. Start 2D 3F58. is push. Okay. 4150. That's our secondary. That's down here. And then 3dB8 should be end 2D. B8. Okay, end 2D. All right. So I think our dictionary looks okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and then 4100 is our first word. So 40B0 is start 2D. 40C0 is our secondary, 4150. 40C0. Wait, why are you in there twice? 40C0. Oh, is that our secondary? 40B0 is start 2D. Okay, best time. 40B0 start 2D. 40C0 is 4150 is this, is our secondary. And then 40C0 wait a minute. So this one should have been start 2D followed by call to something followed by an end. Now N2D is 3dB8. So this is 40C8, this one. Okay, 40B0. Oh, I think we're okay. 40B0 is start 2D. 40C0 is our secondary. And then 40C8 is our N2D. Okay, so this one is start 2D, call the secondary N2D. And the secondary is, this is start 2D. B8 is should be push. B8, 3F58. Push. Oh, 37 is the value we're pushing. And then C840 is our N2D. Okay. Huh. All right, so I think the data looks the way I expect it to. So the problem is something else. All right, reg read X20. So we're starting at the first secondary. Reg read X1, that isn't anything yet. Okay, so we'll do a next. Okay, that's our push at the beginning. Oops, I think I hit an R. And, okay, here we're loading X20. Oh, wait a minute. We're in N2D now. Okay. Oh. Sorry, I'm going to start again. Okay, kill this, restart it. Okay, we're breaking it run interpreter. Reg read X30. Interpreter tests run interpreter plus 20. Okay, we're going to step. Okay, so reg read X30. 3D98. Guessing start 2D. start 2D. Okay, yeah, this is where I'm a little... Yeah, so we have the secondary address in the dictionary. So it's pointing to L secondary, which is this, is this. Okay, so just like it sees secondary 1, it just, secondary 1 says call start 2D, call 2 is secondary 2, and N2D. And then secondary 2, it should come in and be pointing here and say start 2D on this data, which is the push and all that. But I think our data is right. Now this is pointing to run interpreter plus 20. That, oh, we haven't. Yeah, where is that? 3D98. I guess we got to rerun this. No, I did that. Okay, let's do that. I'm not sure the more is helping me here. 3D98. And that's... Oh, run interpreter. Are we stopped at run interpreter? 3D A8. Okay, we're in start 2D with run interpreter is 3D84 plus 20. 3D A4? I don't see how that's quite right. So I'm confused. X30 is not showing. I mean, that's our virtual PC, so I expect it to point to something in the data segment. Now, maybe I just have to step another. Oh, so next another. Okay, so now let's look at LX20. Debug data plus 88. Okay. 4100. Let's get this mem dump we did a while back. 40B0 count. Okay, so 4108. Okay, so he's done the start 2D. He's ready to do the 40C0, which is 101450, 4150, which is down here. Okay, so the code here, the list of stuff, we're pointing to it from the dictionary, so it goes back down into this. All right, so, I mean, I think being here is good. 40C0, okay. So if we do a next instruction, we should get the contents of this, which should be a start 2D. 40B0. Wait a minute. Which goes to A0, 3DA0. 3D A0. Okay, so that should get to start 2D. All right. All right, so we're ready to look. X1 is where we're going to jump. X1 is start 2D. Okay, so to call the secondary, we should do start 2D. Now, let's look at X20. That should be pointing, okay, he's pointing into this memory, 4108. He's pointing past the start address to C0, 40C0, which is push, I think. No, 40C0. Oh, gotta look it up first. 40C1 is 4150. Is this B04? 40B0. Is this? Well, all right. So, I mean, I think we're pointing debug data plus 88, 4108. Here. Okay, this is our, well, I'm confused. So 40C0 is our secondary down at 4150. And X20 is saying 4108. Okay, so it says we're pointing at that one. This is where I feel like we're going one too many start 2Ds before we get going. Okay, but let's, X20 is debug plus 88. X1 is 3DA0. Should the secondary just have 3 instructions? Yes, that's what we've done here. Well, he has 2. He has the start 2D, and then his actual instructions are jump to L secondary 2 or call L secondary 2 and then end. Okay, so I think that's what we're getting. We're pointing to where do we want to execute? Well, we want to start here. In that block. So he should get this 4150 and try and execute that. All right, so now we're gonna jump to the new routine. And we're back at 3DA0, which is start 2D, which makes sense because that's what the first cell was he's calling. All right, now X30 is pointing to debug data plus 88, which is what? 4108. Okay, so the program counter is here. We want to call this secondary. Okay, so I'm going to next. That was our prologue. Now load X1 from X20. Okay, so reg read X20 is 08. Okay, and then if I next reg read X0, X1, debug data plus 16. Okay, so that's plus 0 plus 8 plus 16 is the 4150, which is the secondary block down here. Okay. And then we'll next again, and now X1 should be, okay. I guess I'm getting thrown off by seeing the code for N2D. We're not calling that, we're just seeing some context. Okay, but now X1 should be different. It was 40C0, now it's 4150. So we're going to go jump into that code. Okay. I mean, so far it seems like it's kind of working. Okay, so I'm going to, I'll next again. Now we're going to actually do the jump to it. Okay. Yeah, so here's 40B0. Oh, X1. Okay, can I do bang? Bang. Mem. Nope. Bang mem. Nope. Mem read. This. Okay. So X20. All right. Points to debug data plus 96, which is 4110. All right. So that's... Okay. So I think we just called C040. Who's changing X20? Is anybody? Yeah, 160 is secondary 2. But at some point, X20 needs to point into our new thing, and I don't think we're doing that. I think we're missing a line here. Maybe. I'm kind of confused. But the store the record, we load it back up. That seems fine, but we never change it. We look at it, right? And so that's the part that makes me wonder about this. All right, I'm gonna draw a picture. This often helps. Okay, so we have secondary 1, secondary 2. Excuse me. When we come in, X20 points to when we first come in, it points to the start of Sec 1. All right, this is annoying. Okay. And okay, and then we call start 2D. Yeah, I think start 2D needs to set the address somewhere, but it needs to keep track of its own position, but once it gets something, I feel like it needs to somehow jump down the address as well. It's like, I don't know. So it's going through its own X20. That seems fine. Like it's got to keep track of its own position in the loop. Okay. But when it calls somebody and they come here, they somehow should set X20. Yeah, they need to do. Yeah, start2D doesn't know where it is, but it knows. So I think it's something like this indirect x20, yeah, somehow before the loop starts, they need to set x20. So I think it's got to be here in 48 that you say x20 should really be, I think it should be the address x20 points to. Now, is that going to work? Something like move x20, or no, load our x20 with the address of x20, the address in x20, or something like that. JSR with address of subroutine. Yeah, I mean, we're coming in and we're pointing at the routine we want to run to be in control of this block of code, whether it's a single primary assembly routine or it's another secondary. And so he should be working his way through that block of code. Now, I don't know if he needs to call that first one, because that's how he got here. I kind of think it's like this. Okay. Now, I think it didn't matter to us before because we were always just linear, and so we're calling primaries. They don't screw with x20. They don't need to. But every running secondary has to keep track of its own position, especially when we get to recursion, because, you know, we're going to have the same method with two different positions as we're in different places on the recursion. Okay, so, all right, I got to trace this in my head a little. But what we're doing is trying to load x20, you know, virtual PC with starting point of this block. Yeah, because I think we got here by calling, whoever called us because they were looking at our opening header line, which is that address. And so we need to move past that. Okay, I may be, this may be throwing everything off. But somehow it has to be right. Or no, it has to be right that we change x20. And we do restore x20. Yeah, that was part of N2D's job from very early. And mostly just because we're calling other stuff, we really do need to keep track of the registers, you know, kind of thing, push them and pop them, that we change. And x20, you know, when a secondary gets to the bottom of its thing, that doesn't affect us. Our x20 should be the next one that we called with. All right, now whether this is the right code to do it, I'm not quite as sure. Load our XR, that x20, that's fine. I think it's okay that we come in start 2D because somebody was pointing at start 2D. Yeah, I'm not clear if we need to increment or not, but I think the idea is right. We have the address of the block. We're going to start it at that block. I don't know. We have the address of the parent block. Okay, we'll try it this way. I'll tell you what, I want to try it two ways, with and without that #8. Okay. X20. Pretty cool. Oh, right back is the source. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I've worried about. Okay, well, we can do, I guess that's why we did this down there. Load our X1 with X20, #8, and then load X1. Okay. Load X20 from X1. Huh. Load BPC. Expected label or encodable integer PC offset. No, I can't need both those. All right. We come in with X20 points to the block. Is that right? Okay, let's look at run interpreter. Okay, so originally run interpreter points to the starting secondary, and it moves that into X20. So that points to the start to D. Now we're saying branch start to D. Okay. And I'm saying we want to load I don't know. Maybe we need to increment X20 on the way in. We got should store the next address in X20. Yeah. Well, X20 is pointing to the original block. And see, this is the part that's weird to me. He's hard coding that start to D. Okay, so we're saying start to D. I'm going to start you pointing at the block. And I think the first thing you need to do is skip over the cell because you know it's there. I think we're saying we're only going to interpret secondaries for one thing, but let's add X20 plus 8. Okay, so now we're pointing at the next cell past the start to D. So you come in here, you're going to call whatever that thing points to. Oh, no, we got to change. Like somehow we have to be indirect when we call a secondary. Golly. This is so twisted, but like it is kind of the heart of what's going to go on. So this is definitely the key problem to solve for calling secondaries. All right. So when you come in, we're saying skip over that first cell because that was the word address that got you here. All right. And now you're going to interpret down through the list. And when you call start to D, you're going to look up its thing. So this is saying skip past word address because it's what got you here. Okay, so on our original one, you were at start 2D. Now you're at the word that points to secondary 2. Yeah, he kind of does. That's why I'm thinking maybe this run interpreter may not be quite up to snuff. you're pointing, okay, now we're pointing to secondary. When we call him, it's like he needs to say, the secondary needs to say, I stored my word counter now on my block. Okay, let's, I don't know. I don't want to just throw spaghetti at things. Yeah, that's an error. If 0 does not jump, it's an error. Okay, interesting. All right, so, well, move should be the first thing it's doing. Yeah. Move x20, x0. Well, x0 is not your starting point, though. That's only true on the initial call. We formed a secondary, and we are passing it to run interpreter in x0, and it's trying to configure. It's got to clear out the stack, so it restarts the stack, and it starts x20 at that point. Now, that's I could see this belonging up there, that we should add 8, because we know we're in start 2D, but I think I'm changing the semantics of various things. Yeah. I mean, this, well, it's going to break other stuff, so this is problematic. But I don't think it would be wrong to do this. On the first one, it seems like you're calling start 2D because I'm assuming you're calling a secondary here. And so you peel off that word address because we hard-coded it to start 2D. Otherwise, I think the code is kind of like this, and maybe it could be this, if we just folded things together better. But now this says come in with x20 pointing to the next cell you're going to execute. And then when we call that, which is our secondary, he really should do something about x20. He should be pointing it it's like he should be pointing it indirectly to himself. And he is also start 2D. So whatever we do should work for the first level too. Okay. It's so hard to trace this stuff. All right. So we load up this, we do this double indirect load. And it's like it should catch it somewhere. Initially, x20 should point to an address that points to secondary 1. Yeah, so let's see if we've got it here. Well, I guess we'll pretend this, right? So if this we're calling a secondary instead of push, right? Then the starting PC x20, because we skip past the start 2D, will be here. And so we're pointing to the address in the dictionary that has the address of the secondary. Which looks exactly like this. I mean, structurally. Okay, so when we it's like I want this thing to modify that when it starts. He should say he's given, well, right now he's given this, which is not going to work, I don't think. Well, it did not work. Yeah. Okay. because everybody's depending on different things, you know, but I want to say Start 2D should be able to do something when he calls. Well, we're going to load this thing double indirectly, so load, which points us at Start 2D on the secondary. All right, maybe I'm going to make a copy of this. We deserve a good picture. All right, we don't need these. Okay. So ours looks like this is sec 1. He looks like sec 2, pointing to the dictionary, and then N2D. I feel like I've left something out, right? Oh, start dictionary, secondary 2, and 2D. Okay, that one is right. And then the next one is, well, I think he's a push. 55 and 2D. Start 2D, push 55 and 2D. Okay. And now let's get the dictionary. Spread these out a little bit. Okay. And the dictionary kind of looks the same. Okay, our dictionary looks like start 2D, push, secondary 2, and 2D. Is that right? Start 2D, push, secondary, and 2D. Okay. So now the arrows. Okay, so this points to there. Secondary 2D. Start 2D points to here, let's put an arrow in. Hey, got one right. Okay. Okay. And then N2D, I'm going to do a little crossover here. N2D points here. Okay. And I don't know if I'm going to make it more confusing. We'll kind of change the colors. Start 2D points here. I constantly forget how to do this. There's no add a point here either. Oh, is it the pen? Well, all right, we'll let that live. And his color can be red. Here's bush. And here's N2D. Okay, now right, so this one points back. All right, let's secondary 2 points here. See if we can get him. And we'll give him yet another color. Green. More contrast. Maybe this green. Okay. And then these guys point to assembly routines. Okay. Can the interpreter use a main block that has a cell that points to someone's somehow? Yeah, I think once we get this right, we'll have to do something like that. I mean, it does. I mean, what it's given originally is X0 pointing to here. I mean, really, the original state is for run interpreter, X0 points right here, and we call start 2D with, right now it's just this pointer here to the same place. I'm saying it probably should be pointing here because this thing is, that's the real starting point. We're already in start 2D, so we don't need to dereference it to get there, which we do now, which is a little weird to me. But, you know, sometimes these little recursive setups, you have to be, it's a little funny to start, you know. Okay, so now we're saying X0, sorry, we're saying X20 points here. I guess I need another arrow. Not that one. Well, whatever. Okay, let's turn him sideways. And orange. Okay. All right, so the original code we've had up till 10 minutes ago is like this, points here, and then he does his thing. And he starts by double looking up start 2D, that points to the code for start 2D, and it gives it itself, and then it goes from there. So that's a little weird. Okay, so moving this down one says, I'm going to give you the pointer to your body. Now, should he have gotten that somehow? Yeah, like X20 is not, I don't know on this indirect call. So, okay, so we go here and then we're going to say, we're going to call sec2. So we look up sec2. It gives us this. We do an indirect. It gives us start 2D. Now, I'm not sure where x20. Oh, we auto incremented x20. So I think maybe it has I think the call process then moved x20 down here, and we're doing start 2D with x20 down here, which is not what we want. We need to say, hey, you called me, but he doesn't know. He knows sec2. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what he knows. I think he should somehow, like somehow x20 has to be either here or here when this thing gets rolling. Now, it doesn't have to be before the loop, or it could be in the loop if that was necessary, but now maybe the problem is, okay, when we come in here the first time and we're here, we're ready to execute sec2. We look this up. I mean, maybe somebody should tell him his starting block as well as the overall pointer or something. I don't know. But he looks up xsec2, and then we're calling it directly. I think, like in our code, right, this address, actually, I think it's this. I think it's x1 between 55 and 56 should be pointing to, okay, x20 points to that cell. It should point to the contents of that cell, which is the dictionary entry of sec2. And then it loads that entry. And branches to that code. I'm almost thinking like branch to x1. I think he's, well, let's stop here and examine this. One of these two, one of the x1 at one point or the other knows the address of the secondary. I think it's between these, like here. Let's do move x2 gets x1 just to kind of give us something to look at. And then the load in 57 is going to take that dictionary entry, load indirect on it, so it's got whatever's in x1, and load that into x1. Okay. Yeah, I think if we were to stop here after 57 and examine x1 and x2, I think we'd know what x20 should be set to. Because I think what should maybe happen is we should tell you, here's the starting block of your code on anybody going into Start 2D. Just like, here's where you're starting from. And then, you'll increment from there. And I think then it's going to be, move x20 gets x1 or x0 or whatever we change it to. Okay, I think that's a plan. This, let's go back to this. I think that just makes us go down an extra level, but we'll see about getting rid of that too. Okay. Make. Quit. And I'm just going to do the obj dump because I think it's easier to scan through like that. Okay. LLDP. Excuse me. All right. Okay, so let's run. All right, so let's look at X1. This is before, so 40B0 is debug data. All right, so mem read debug data minus count to 40. Now this looks weird again. He doesn't even look like the right zone. If that's debug data, why is this not even showing 40B0? Okay, that looks plausibly better. Okay, so 3D 90, it better be start 2D. 3D 90 is start 2D. Okay, so there's start 2D, push, our code for secondary 2, and end 2D. Okay, so that seems right. All right, next. Okay, we don't care about these stores. Okay, so now we're at the top of the loop. Load X1, X20. Okay, so reg read X20. Can I say X1, X2? No. X20 is debug data plus 80. Okay, so that's B0. Well, plus 80 must be this one. Okay. All right, so we'll step. What did we just do? I guess I'm still reading X1, reg read X2. Okay. This math is going to kill me. Okay. Let's step over. Nope. Let's next over. Next again. Okay. Reg read X20. Reg read X1. Reg read X2. Okay. X2 is debug data. That's the dictionary. Okay, but this is calling start 2D. Okay, so I'm going to continue. And we should break there again. Okay. Now let's next. Load our X1. Okay, let's reg read X20. Plus 88 still. Okay. Move X2, X1. Okay, next. Reg read X2. Next. Reg read X1. Okay, so X1 is data, debug data plus 160. Okay, plus 0 plus 80 plus 160. Okay. Okay, that's the secondary. So X1 has that. Okay. So, yeah, so X1 is secondary 2 going into that. It's just sort of coincidental at this point. I mean, we didn't consciously leave X2 around, but I think we should. Okay. So, I'm going to change things. Goodness. All right, I'm going to use X0 for this, because this is going to be an extra parameter coming in. X0. Okay. So going in, I believe we should do X20 equals X0 plus 8. Now, I don't know if that instruction is legal. We've done this before. Okay. So because we're going to skip past, we know we're in start 2D because we just got called. So we know that was the word that was above us. So we skip back past. Now X20 is pointing to the next word that we're going to call. Okay. Now I don't know if this is going to break all the other calls we've been doing because it changes things, and it doesn't pass this either. Okay, I didn't use X0 on my first one. Oh, I did. I've got X20 equals X0. Okay, and skip. Well, I think it's a different error for what it's worth. 2343. I don't know what that means. Okay. All right. So now this is starting at the secondaries body. It looks up that address, should get it to the dictionary. Looking up the dictionary should get it to the thing to call. In our case, these are primitives on the second level. Okay. You know what? I'm going to do something else too. Okay, we got 4100 stuff. This is 816. Yeah, I think we can work with that. Let's zero this thing out. Oh, he won't let you go past 8. Well, let's do 8 then. Try and make the arithmetic. Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. We'll make. Yeah, we should take a break. Okay. Yeah, get that break. 5 minutes of thinking. We'll solve it all. Okay, see you in a few minutes. Probably 3 or 4. Welcome back. Okay. The good news is, I mean, so far what we've seen, our dictionaries and our secondaries look the way we want in data, so I think that's going to help. At least we're not struggling through that today. Okay, so we ran it. It failed. Let's debug it. We'll set a break at break to start 2D. Okay, and run. Okay, so we're at 3D90. Start 2D. Okay. And let's look at X1. Debug data. Okay. Mem read this. Okay. That looks good. And got at least a couple of zeros there. Good. Okay, so we know we can skip the first two. They're the prologue. All right, we're ready to add. X20 gets X0 plus 8. Okay, so let's see. X0. Debug data plus 80. Okay, so that's the first word. Plus 80. Is that right? One, two, three, four, five. Okay, so 45 times 16 is 80. Okay. 4100 is 3D90 is start 2D. Okay. 3F58 is our push. 41A0 is our secondary. Okay. So let's look at X20. Debug plus A. Okay. We're in the first primary there. Or is the first secondary. Start 2D is the call that moves. Yes. Yeah. I mean, just like a normal procedure call, right? You start executing in that new location. Dict is 4100, sect is 4150. Yes. Yeah, good. Okay, so we're pointing at the first cell, which is the start 2D cell. We're going to skip over that. Okay, and so now X20 is going to be plus 8, 88. Okay. I feel like that's kind of where things should be. All right, go back to this. So this is basically at 80. This is 88. Okay. So we're coming in with X0 pointed to 80. Okay. Now we're going to load and move forward. Okay. So X0 should now be whatever 8 plus 8 is. X20, I mean, plus 96. Okay, so now we've moved to the pointer to the N2D, which says after you get back, you should start executing at the N2D. Okay. Now we're going to do load R, X0. Next. Okay. And then continue. Well, let's look at X0. 160. This is secondary 2, right? So that should be good. Let's continue. This should take us back to start 2D. No, it does not. Wow. Okay. Bad access. So we're trying to execute this as code. Something's weird there. X0 is debug data plus 160, which is secondary 2. No, that is wrong. Yeah, it's like we're missing a level. Oh man. I can't believe we need another indirect. Seems like 2's enough. We got pointers to pointers to pointers to stuff. Okay. So, well, let's see what X20 is. Debug data plus 96. So we aren't in start 2D. So 4100 there, so 41A0, his contents is the routine we need, and yet we're not there. That's really too bad. It is like we got a level missing though. Well, that goes back to what I was trying to put the LDR in there, because we're coming in with the address. Yeah, I don't think it could be in a way, right? It's he needs X20 to keep track of the current secondary. So if he comes in with X0, what has he got? He's got the address of the routine to call with this stuff, but we didn't call it. Maybe this is not right. He blew up on this. We're calling in. It's done on line 33. Right. I mean, that's the initial one. Now, maybe it's not necessary if. I mean, they're the same here, right? So X20 is X0. We store it, but then we take X0 and add 8. So we skip over that thing. But maybe that's not what we should be doing. Maybe this. Every time I feel like I should be doing something, it's like it's in the interpreter loop already. Why aren't you taking advantage of that? Okay. So when we load the value at X20, like with this way, X20 and X0 are pointing at the start of the block. So at the word address, which is that start 2D pointer. Okay. And we call start2D Oh, this is so twisted. Okay, so line 55, we're taking the address pointed to by X20, which is currently the secondary, the word address of secondary 1, say. Okay, we look up whatever that is. It's start2D. We load that into X0. Well, it's the address of start2D. We load the dictionary entry for start2D. We load that into X0, indirectly load, and then when we get to 56, X0 or 57, X0 is start2D. And how is that right, though? I don't think. Okay. I think when you come in here, well, I guess the two choices are you're either pointing at the word address or you're pointing at the code contained by the word address. I think we should be assuming we're doing the second. Okay, so you come in. Right now it's doing the first. We got here by calling. He's pointing at the word. So I feel like he should just add 8. Okay, that gets him pointing. His first thing is to do the first thing. Because we already got here, start2D. Okay, so X20 points to the contents of X20 is the address of sec2D in the dictionary. He loads that. Sec2D is often in data space. He loads X0 and then he branches. I don't know. When do we put the address into X20? Yeah, that's the question, because I don't think we're doing it. Right? Because at least now, without this, well, X20 gets set up here. He gets incremented by 8. He never has a chance to go more. If you add 8, yeah, it's like we're not going anywhere. Except if he does increment more 8s, then we're going past N2D, and that's why we're getting an issue. Nothing makes him jump, I guess, is the sense I have. Okay, so this X0, okay, so, oh my gosh. Let me copy this. Okay, and paste that in here. Should get down just a little. Okay, so when you come in, let's simulate this. Initially, X0 is here. I mean, my theory is we should move X0 or set X0 or something at this point. X20, excuse me. Okay, so let's say we don't, if we don't do any adding, we're going to call start2D again, which seems pointless. So let's say we add, and the starting point is X20 points here. We load the contents of X20 is sec2. So we've got the pointer to the dictionary entry in X0. Then we load that pointer into this, and we get the address of sec2. And then we BLR to sec2. Now that feels odd. Right. And so we come in pointing to that. All right. So now we come in. Well, here's the failure. The PC, we're branching to X0, which is not code. Yeah. I mean, that address should never be executed, right? We can't branch to that. We need to branch to the contents that it points to. Okay. Now, so which means another level of indirection, which seems off in a way and correct in a way. I don't know if this is going to work for the primaries. So when I have 3 levels of indirection like this, I mean, sometimes that means you're starting your loop at the wrong point, and maybe we need to shift that around somehow. But we definitely can't branch BLR to X0 here, because this is not in the code space, it's in data space. So that's wrong. We need to load the contents of X0. But like, that's exactly what this is, right? It's like load the contents of, well, it's not X0. Yeah, but like, we don't want to touch our X20. So that's why I'm resisting putting it in here. It seems like it's the first thing we should do in the loop is, like, if we got X0 pointing to the right thing, then we could change X20, which seems like what we should do. But BLRX0, yeah, that just cannot work to the secondary. So something's off. Okay. I'm going to end up with a week and a half to think about it, I think. Well, we got 45 minutes. We might break through. All right. So I hope we do. I mean, it's for instructions. Come on. All right. So it feels like when we come in to start 2D, we have a pointer to a block of stuff. I feel like this is exactly what we're trying to do, though, is load this and do it. I mean, if we came in and said X20 equals X0, okay, we cannot branch to that. First, X20 should point to, and the address contain the address of secondary 1. Start 2D should always set X20. Yeah, I think start 2D has to set X20. All right, what's the line we had there? I guess we had nothing for now. Okay, but maybe... Okay, so we come into start 2D, but if we came into a secondary, right, we branched, but we can't branch to X0 being that. We have to look first. Okay, one thing would be to put another indirection in. load x0, address of x0 would be this, and then branch to it, because a secondary will always have that as its first data cell. Okay, so that would be okay from the secondary point of view. If it's a primary, well, it's still okay, because a primary is going to have the same thing pointing to itself, to the real code. So branch remote into that. But, okay, so the first one, let's see if I can say how these pointers work. So what we want is, we're here, we want to end up at the dictionary, and then here, and then run this routine. If it's a primary, fine. If it's a secondary, we're running start2D with a pointer to this block. BLRX0 will still break. Well, I think our current code in contents of X20 is the pointer to sec2. Sorry, it's the pointer to the dictionary entry. Is that the way to say it? Maybe that's what I should emphasize to myself. Dictionary entry. Is that right? No, I changed that too much. Push dict entry. Okay. So when we start here, X20 points here, we say load your contents. Okay, my contents is a pointer to the dictionary entry. Load the contents of that thing you're pointing to. Okay, my contents is the word address of sec2. These are a little far. Okay, the word address of sec2. Okay, which is this address. Now this address is in data space, so it's not executable. So this BLR cannot be right. So if we said load the contents of your thing and branch to that, well, the first word is always an executable word sitting there in data space. It shouldn't be lsec2. Oh, is that right? No, the dictionary should have the pointer to this. So the dictionary can point to code space or data space. That's probably the key twist that makes it a little funny. So, I mean, I think in here, when we create this, like we said, give me slot 2, 0, 1, 2, and that's, you know, that's the address I'm after, is the address of slot 2 here. We didn't do anything. I mean, the fact is slot 2 contains the address of sec2. So no, I think this is correct. But see, if I put another BLR in here, like, or LDR, if I do the same line again, LDR x0, x0, then I've got this, I've always got an address there. Yeah, well, that's the thing. We're trying to make it work. So let me put push out here as well. Let's just take this. Okay. So this is push dictionary entry. No, he's not. He's the primary, so he has the push. This is code for push. And then his last statement is a return. And this points to itself. Points to the code for push. And some other color. Blue. Okay. Right. So if we're here, okay, we came into this with this. See, I think we have to move x20 to 1 past this. Step 1, look up the push dictionary entry. Take the address. That gives you the address of this. Take the contents of that word. That gives you a code address you're going to BLR to, which is this down here. So I think it's the same thing. It was read this, branch to it. So I think it will work the same. So what I guess I'm saying, I guess I want an extra indirection here, and I want to move x20 to, I want to take x20 as x0. Well, I think I need to keep this one separate, because right now x0 has the address we want, but if we do another indirection, it won't. It'll have the address of the code to branch to. Okay, so let me try that. Let's say x1. Well, no, I think it's x0. Let's make this branch to x1. Okay, so x20 is x0 plus 8. And then we do 3 indirects. Look, my goodness, seems crazy. But I think from the picture it is 3 loads. Load, get somewhere, and load. So push here. We've got x20. We load. x20 is pointing here. We load. Gets us to the dictionary. Load that. Gets the address of the real place to look. Address the header. The word address. Load this. And then call that. So I think it is 3 in either case. Sorry, let me do sec2 again. We're pointing here. We say load this, and run it. And that's start 2D's code. Okay. Now, there may be a way to flip something around. So I feel like one thing, like we're doing one too many indirects, but maybe we're not. Maybe they're not indirects, they're loads. I got to think of them as loads and not indirects, but still. Okay. Quit this. Yes. Make. All right. A different error. Now it's bus error 10 instead of bad extraction. Okay. No one's changing x20 to the new address. I think they are now. Oh, did I not do it? Yeah, I made x20 be the new address. So when you come to start 2D, x0 is still pointing to the second load, which was the address of the secondary. But that's what we'll confirm here. Okay, so let's dump this, run this. Start 2D. Okay. Now, are we... X0 comes in pointing to the load address. X20 almost doesn't matter because we control X20 when we get here. I think we're okay. All right. Here's our break. Let's run. Okay, so we can next and next. All right, so here's the add X20. So let's look at X20. All right, X0, X20. Okay, debug data plus 80 is secondary 1, which is what we would like. We're skipping over the first instruction because that's what got us here. Okay, so we'll next. All right, now we're going to load whatever's at X20. Okay, which is the contents of debug plus 88. Okay. Sorry, let's make sure X20 is 88. Okay, so the contents of 88. All right. And then we do the load for, sorry, that was the load from there. So let's look at X0. Okay, debug data plus 16. Okay, so that's the dictionary. It's looking up the secondary 2 word. Okay. We do this next. That should take us X0. Let's see where X0 is pointing. It's pointing to 160. That's secondary 2. So it is pointing to secondary 2 coming in, which is kind of what we want. Now, X1 should be the first thing in there. Okay, and X1 should be start 2D. No. X0 is debug data plus 41A0. Okay, let's look at mem read this count to 40. Okay, X0 is pointing at debug data plus 160. Well, I assume that's here. Okay. And then he loads this, which is the dictionary entry. Well, I think this is going to be where it blows up because we're like not deep enough yet. Boom. How could we have missed 2 levels? That just seems crazy. Let me look at this code again. Okay, so we had load X0, X20 plus 8, and auto increment, post increment. X0 loads the data and doesn't change. So X0 is debug data plus 160. That's kind of what we want. Now we load the first cell. We only have the address to run. I guess it's another level. Right, like something's weird that we have to need so many pointers. Oh. Did I run make? Oh, now I know with 4 loads, like, is that going to be right for push? It's not, because we don't. I think they're right. They're not indirect. I mean, we want to conceptually think of them as that way. But they're not. The old school way put push the header right by the code. And if we had done that, it would kind of work because we counted out the jumps. But the code, the way it is now, push the header is only here. This is what's pointing to that code, the dictionary entry. And this isn't here. And so we don't have the extra indirection, but something's funny. We shouldn't need it. I don't know if Start 2D is the one that's wanting too much indirection. Okay, let's take this last thing out because it's breaking the local. But even this, like, that's a lot of indirection. So when Start 2D gets a secondary, who's running? Yeah, it's like we're off a level to start with, which makes me wonder about that run interpreter. I mean, if you called Start 2D, you give it a block. It should call the indirect on the dictionary. Get the code to run with that block. Okay, and if Start2D gets a primary, he wants to call primary for the code. Well, I want to think of Start2D as being the core of the interpreter because it's the part that makes the secondaries work. And it should work with primaries or secondaries. You give it a block of code, which is either a primary or a secondary, and it should be fine. And what it means by fine is it's going to take the block's first cell and call it, indirectly. That's the BLR supposed to be. But I think like if we're starting it off kilter, like we're not giving it the block, like I don't know, we were doing it. Start to be more like push. Well, I think he's kind of is. He's got to be able to work with either primaries or secondaries. And so they have to be the same level of indirection to get to them. Okay, so if star 2D gets a block, well, maybe let's start a level out. The interpreter is going to be given a block, and he's going to look at the first cell of the block and call it and pass it the block. Now the primaries don't care that they have this address. They're just going to run their code and come back. So when start 2D comes in, does he think? I think he's already going to have that block. Okay, so the first run of start 2D, he should start at the dictionary entry. I mean, at the first real line. Okay, and he's got to load. He's got to load this dictionary entry. Get a value. Look at the value's first cell and call it. Now this is start 2D. He's going to be given, well, he's got to be given that block pointer before it gets called. So I think, in a sense, what we did to capture it is kind of helpful. We can't jump to it. We got to jump in directly. Okay, so start 2D is given the block in X0. He's going to say X20, my counter is at the first, at line 2 of this. And the way he executes is look at what's there, look at what's pointed to, look at what's pointed to, and call. Now, if it's a primary, he comes in, his X20 is here. He looks in the dictionary. I think maybe our primaries are the problem. Maybe they do need to be like this. Because the dictionary should be, well, it's not a dictionary really. I mean, in theory, you don't need anybody's name at this point because it's all been, quote, compiled, which is pretty darn minimal. But the compile is map the name of the token to the slot in the dictionary. And when you get that, that's the address you put in, the address of the dictionary row. Huh. Okay. So I think I'm going to set up a secondary. I'm going to set up push. I guess it's going to have to be all these routines are going to need a cell header like this. And that seems kind of important in this at this point. Now, it's not how we've been doing things, so all the other tests are going to break. But I think that's the structure we've got to have. This doesn't have to literally be next to it, but it's got to be one level away. Does that make sense? I mean, in the book I've been using, the dictionary is this big linked list, and at compile time, you walk through the list looking for the right name, and at runtime, you've already got the pointer to the dictionary entry is what you're working with, which does look like this. So maybe we're getting closer to what its representation is, but I feel like we kind of, well, no, I mean, this has to be, so the dictionary, it would have the header and the name and the linked list pointer, and then this address, and it would always know, go down 3 words and get that name or that address, call it indirectly. Now so this would say go down 3 words, get an address, and call it indirectly. Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna dig in. Let's put headers for this code as if it were separate from the dictionary. It doesn't seem right though, but I think I want to get consistent and then try and peel off the indirection. I don't know. Okay, try and change it around. If these things were sitting here in the dictionary as blobs of code, you would point to a dictionary entry and then go down 3 words and get the address and call it. And I was keeping these separate, but okay, yeah, let's try that. So we're going to take our primaries, give them a proper block, just like these, where, so right now the primary looks like push isn't there. It just points from the dictionary to push. But here we point from the dictionary to the word address. Now, why that's different? Okay, I'm going to try that. I don't think it's hard to create. It's annoying. Okay, so I don't know. So each of these, I'm going to make blocks. Okay. And I'm going to make start 2D header. Quad 0. Push header. Quad 0. Push. sorry. Sec2d already has its header, but N2d header. Quad 0. Okay. Now well, let's these are, let's get these macros. Okay. I'm going to store maybe I need a store address. I don't know. The macro we store x2 to contents of x0. Okay. Let's load x0 with the address of start2d header. No, start2d. And then I want to store it x0 in oh, I need both addresses, don't I? Okay. Yeah, we need them to handle it eventually. I'm just gonna, for this experiment, I'm gonna not. All right, so let's get them both in. X1 start2d header. I'm going to store x0 in x1. Is that right? At the address of x1. Okay, they're kind of experimental anyway. All right, start2d. Push. x0, x1. Okay. And then N2d. Okay, so I'm pushing those, and now this should add start2d header, push header, and N2d header. Okay. So now my secondaries act the same way, and now the interpreter, this has the triple indirect. Okay, let's try it. Undefined headers, reference from start. Undefined symbol push header. Okay, fine. I'm not sure why that file should care. But this is the quick version. Start an interpreter test. don't complain. Push header. Push header. Push header. Okay, does not work. Yeah. Oh, so frustrating. All right. I guess the question is, are they set up the way I think they should be? We're make sure what I'm thinking here. So start2d header is going to point to the start2d code. Okay, so that one's more realistic. The dictionary entry points to the header, and now that should be the same. Okay, so let's break set minus b start2d run. Okay, so now add x20 x8. Okay, because we came in pointing to a start2d header, we're skipping over that. All right, now reg read x20 debug data plus 88. I think that's right. Mem read debug data minus 4300 minus count 300. Okay. Debug data should have those cells. That's a lot of zeros. Okay. Lots of zeros. I don't think that's looking too good. Did the secondary level of the third? Yeah, I've lost track. Okay. I've got 3 loads. And I capture the pointer to the secondary. And then I load whatever it points to and then call that. But, okay. Do we name? I'm not sure if we named our data enough to see the contents. Else secondary 1 is not going to be in there anymore. Oh, debug data. For 1F0. Debug data. Well, that one seems okay. So that's test dictionary. And then those all look like zeros. Okay, so something's screwing that up. All right, so I think the best thing to do is summarize as best we can what we think's going on. We think primaries and secondaries needed different amounts of indirection. So we tried to add another level to the primaries. Blows up, leaves secondaries with all zeros. Okay. recursion. Okay. I guess what we did was attempted to have a secondary call a secondary. It's clear that the inner one doesn't change x20, or didn't change x20, so it was not executing the inner steps. Okay. Then we tried adding, I guess we tried changing how start 2D finds the initial cell. Trying to skip over the start 2D reference itself. But that wasn't enough. It appears primaries and secondaries want different amounts of indirection. We tried adding another indirection cell for primaries, but it didn't work. Could pick up debugging there next time, which, if you'll recall, is in a week and a half. Okay, I think this is probably this statement here. Okay. Well, another tough day for us. This inner interpreter loop. I mean, I think there's something very elegant and nice in it, but we're not quite there. And we'll get the detritus of several attempts here. I think we're conceptually very close, and that's the way recursion goes sometimes. You know, it's if you have something off, you know, it affects every level and the whole thing's messed up, and you fix that little tweak and boop, everything falls out working the same. Something's a little weird with that extra indirection though, but we'll pick up debugging there next time, I think, unless one of us has a great idea in the middle of what's going wrong. I'm going to push this. Well, it's so broken, I don't want to do that. No, I think we may need to revert some of this. Okay, but we'll pick up there anyway. Thanks for helping this week, and have a good weekend, a good week, and I'll be back the 26th, and hopefully all enlightened about it. All right, take care. Bye-bye.